Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamerspro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. I came across a live interview that was being published on the PBD podcast, Patrick Bet-David podcast. And you guys know Patrick Bet-David, Valuetainment. These guys have a very, very big media platform, and usually they debut their full interviews on the PBD podcast. You saw some of that with the Andrew Tate podcast, but in that particular episode, it was featuring Stephen A. Smith. And when I clicked on it, the show had already commenced, so I kind of caught it. And actually, I caught it at a part where I didn't even know where I was. But as I was listening to it, I saw that they were discussing sports. And they were talking about Jordan and all of that. So I said, okay, let me wait for the full interview to be finished. And then I'll go back and listen to it. So I went back. I fast forwarded through the first maybe 75% of it because they were talking about politics and all of that. And I wasn't very interested in that. So it got to the part where they were talking about sports. And they kind of honed in on Michael Jordan and The Last Dance, and they were talking about Scottie Pippen, Isaiah Thomas, and these people. Now, initially, when Scottie Pippen came out and broke his silence on the Dan Patrick show, that was really where he kicked everything off with his offensive towards Michael Jordan. That was his first salvo. Where he really started going to Jordan, called Phil Jackson a racist, and that kicked it off. And then what happened subsequently was basically this campaign, crusade against Jordan, all by Scottie, and it shocked a lot of people, including Michael Jordan himself, and it's something that a lot of us discussed. So what happened? About a year or so ago, Stephen A. Smith had alluded to a conversation that he had with Michael Jordan where he was reacting to some of the things that Scottie Pippen did. And of course, there were some Scottie defenders, but there was a particular part in this story where basically Jordan came to the realization that Scottie Pippen pretty much hated him for a very, very long time. And it had really nothing to do with the Last Dance docuseries. So during this sit down with himself and Patrick Bet-David, that's what they really got into. And Stephen A. Smith essentially revealed a private conversation that he had with Michael Jordan, where Jordan told him, secretly how he really felt about Scottie Pippen and the things that he was doing in the moment where he realized that Scottie and himself were basically through forever. So for those of you who didn't hear that, we want to play it for you now, and then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to what Stephen A. Smith had to say here.
Last Dance.
Yes, sir.
Do you think, this whole No Bull tour, Scottie, Horace Grant, and, is it Wellington? I don't know who the other guys. I think it's one of the centers that they're going around talking about what happened and, how upset they were. And then Scottie comes out with the book, and I don't know who he did his interview with. And he said, how do you want to be remembered as, Scottie? And he says, I want to be remembered as the greatest of all time, right? I watched Scottie do an analysis on TV. He's actually really good giving his analysis. I actually enjoy watching his analysis when he gives. You had an interview with him one time when he says LeBron versus this, and he says, you said, but statistically LeBron, but Michael's the greatest of all time. So how could you say that? Michael at any point could average triple-double. And he says, no. He says he couldn't? No, because it's not in his demeanor. I'd say the same thing about Kobe, and he's kind of giving that conversation. What do you think happened to Scottie to all of a sudden come out thinking he's, I want to be remembered as the greatest of all time? What happened after Last Dance to Scottie?
I think he wants the world to see him in a different light than he believes Michael Jordan has betrayed him as, particularly in The Last Dance. I would tell you Scottie Pippen is not accepting enough culpability for how Scottie Pippen ultimately influenced people to look at him. It was you that signed the contract that Jerry Reinsdorf advised you not to sign because he said you're not going to be able to come back and renegotiate. I'm telling you this right now. Don't do it. And Michael Jordan and others told him that. He wouldn't listen. The same Scottie Pippen that is complaining about Jordan when Jordan was retired and was playing baseball, it was Scottie Pippen kicking his sneakers up in the ears for the cameras, showing that he was wearing Jordan and asking them to come back. And When Scottie Pippen wanted his new contract, it was him that was vacillating back and forth, playing hard, not playing hard, playing, not playing, and whatever, because he was pouting over his contract, et cetera, et cetera. And so you harbor responsibility. It was you that refused to enter the game when Phil Jackson called Tony Kukoc's number. That wasn't Michael Jordan. And so those things played a role in Scottie Pippen being viewed the way that he was viewed. But let's talk about how he's been viewed. He's a 6-time champion, one of the elite defensive players that ever played this game of basketball, and a person that's Michael Jordan himself, who I know well, has said on countless occasions, is the greatest team. I would have never won a championship without Scottie Pippen. He's the greatest teammate I've ever had. And I owe my 6 titles to him. So for Scottie, it's about the money that you don't have compared to what Jordan has. And it's about the lack of recognition. But my response is, you on the basketball court with and without Jordan for a decade plus, you had ample opportunity to be seen as superior to Michael Jordan. You know better. You know better. You were phenomenal. You were great. You're a Hall of Famer. You're an Olympic gold medalist. You're a member of the original Dream Team. All of that's true. You know good and damn well you were no Michael Jordan. Stop it. That's just how you feel because your frustration is coming out and you know that's going to go on the headlines. But when you go that route, anybody that knows the game of basketball knows better. And I think that Michael Jordan is one of those guys. You know, Kobe was like that too. You could do a lot of things. Don't ever let them feel like they can attach the word betrayal to you. They don't come back from that. And when it comes to Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan feels betrayed. When Scottie revealed in his book his feelings for Michael Jordan and how he didn't even give his condolences in person to Michael Jordan. I was on the phone with Michael Jordan that day, talking about something else. And then we had heard about what Scottie Pippen had said. And Michael Jordan was under the impression that it was just busy, it was chaotic, and all of this other stuff, and that's why he never thought anything of it. But all of these years later, when Scottie Pippen had alluded to his father passing away, his father being murdered, and how he didn't give his condolences on purpose, Michael Jordan's words were, I hope it's worth it.
Wow.
I hope it's worth it for him. I have nothing. And he literally said, I have nothing else to say.
Whoa.
And I know Michael Jordan well enough to know what that means.
So you heard what Stephen A. Smith had to say. What he said was the part that I was reacting to over the numerous shows that we produced, because throughout this saga, there were people out there that were trying to come to the defense of Scottie. And I was calling BS on it, right? I was calling BS on it, especially for this part. Let's go through this situation once more. The Last Dance docuseries debuts. We all saw it. In the docuseries, they chronicled the 6 championships of the Chicago Bulls run, the dynasty. In the midst of that docuseries, they were also highlighting key figures like Steve Kerr, Phil Jackson, Horace Grant, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. And throughout the entire docuseries, they were basically showing the highs and the lows of all of these people, including Michael Jordan. It wasn't like as if they were talking about Jordan's highest moments. They mentioned the whole story, and Scottie was part of the story. Now, here's what's interesting. Scottie, even though he hated Jordan secretly, still decided to participate in The Last Dance. The Last Dance comes out, Scottie sees it, and then he decides to go on this campaign. Then he starts talking about Jordan was a terrible teammate. When did you realize Michael Jordan was a terrible teammate? Was it after the Last Dance, or was it before? Because I personally believe that all of these things, all of these feelings, these negative emotions that Scottie harbored to Jordan existed way before the Last Dance docuseries came out. And what gets me is, whenever you would see Scottie and Jordan together, they always seem happy. Jordan and Scottie genuinely seem happy to see each other. And that's the reason why I personally believe that MJ was blindsided by Scottie's attacks. Blindsided. Every time they talked to Jordan and they asked him about his championship run, he would always say, I could have never won those 6 championships without Scottie Pippen. I could have never done it. Whenever they asked him, even hypothetical questions, if you had to play a pickup game and you had to pick 4 teammates, who would you pick? He always said, I'll go with Scottie first. When Scottie Pippen was being inducted into the Hall of Fame, doing his Hall of Fame enrichment speech, who was the one that introduced him? It was Michael Jordan. This big, bad, evil Michael Jordan was the one that was always propelling and propping up Scottie Pippen in the media and in the public. But then when the Last Dance docuseries comes out, all of a sudden now we're finding out that Scottie Pippen felt all of these things about Jordan. Now he's a horrible person. He's a horrible teammate. He's selfish. He was a horrible player. All of these different things, right? And to me, the part that gets me, which was the part that Stephen A. Smith pointed out, was during the moment when Jordan's father passed away, Jordan thought that the reason Scottie didn't express his condolences was because of the things going on and he was busy, whatever. He had no idea that the reason Scottie didn't send him his condolences for his father was because he secretly hated him. And it was at that point Jordan realized this relationship is over. Because what I think Jordan realized was Scottie was really never his friend. I think Jordan viewed Scottie as a friend, but Scottie never viewed Jordan as a friend. And Scottie still decided to participate in the Last Dance docuseries because he thought there was some money. So if you thought Jordan was this evil, bad person, why did you decide to be a part of that docuseries? Nobody can answer this. No one can come up with a succinct answer for this. No one. And what has happened is Scottie has triangulated himself into a corner where everyone is looking at him sideways. Everyone. Then they just recently decided to do the no bulls. So nobody wants to hear this. Nobody wants to hear this. To me, it sounds like Jordan was hurt. I'd be hurt too. I would be hurt that if this was my road dog, this is a guy I've been running with. We had all these incredible memories together, just to find out that this person has been feeling this way about me for decades. But every time they see me, they hugging it up, kumbayaing and smiling and doing all of this stuff. But this is what they really felt like all these years. I would be blindsided too, and I think you would be too. I think at the end, the person that suffers the most is Scottie. Scottie Pippen came out of this situation looking horrible. Absolutely horrible. There's so many audios and footage out there of Scottie saying negative things about Jordan, but you can't find one of Jordan publicly saying anything negative about Scottie Pippen. And Stephen A. Smith revealed what Jordan truly felt about Scottie Pippen's painful betrayal. Because, folks, that's exactly what it was. The fact of the matter is we wouldn't be talking about Scottie Pippen today if it wasn't for Michael Jordan. Everything that Scottie has done since, to sell his book, to sell his liquor, whatever the hell it is, always involved Jordan. Even the No Bull Tour was about Jordan. These people can't go anywhere without mentioning Jordan because they know no one would care if they didn't mention Michael Jordan. So yesterday there was an interview that took place on the PBD podcast with Patrick Bet-David himself and Stephen A. Smith. Now, they have had to sit down together before, and I think this is the second time that they did it. It was about a 2+ hour interview, and during that conversation, they spoke about politics and a bunch of different things. But the part I really tuned in for was essentially to hear the sports aspect of it, to hear what they were going to discuss. And during that part, they were talking about Jordan, the Bulls, Isaiah Thomas. They even spoke about Zion Williamson towards the end. But during their sit down, there was a part where they were discussing Michael Jordan and the Last Dance docuseries. And as you guys know, we all saw it. One of the arguably the best sports docuseries ever. Certainly the most successful. So they were talking about it. Patrick Bet-David was explaining, how it was so powerful. He flew all of his executives, I think to Florida, wherever the hell it was, for them to sit down and watch it. So they were talking about it. Stephen A. Smith then revealed during the conversation that at the time when the docuseries came out, ESPN and a lot of the major networks were actually suffering. And had it not been for Jordan and these guys pushing the docuseries from June to April and then publishing it, those networks would have actually lost hundreds of millions of dollars. So what we want to do is want to play exactly what Stephen A. Smith had to say about the impact of the Last Dance docuseries, and then want to come back and react to it. Take a listen to this part here.
Oh, there is, and it's funny because when Last Dance came out, we were glued to this. Yes. It was always Sunday night, 2 episodes. It was 5 weeks.
It helped that COVID was going on right now, and there was
that's right.
That went on.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's a good point on what came out. So
he saved us because that's when it wasn't supposed to come out. If I remember correctly, it wasn't supposed to come out until June. But once COVID halted the NBA season, he granted permission for it to be moved up so content could be provided while the games was not going.
You made the entire company watch all 10
I rented out episodes. The Breakers Hotel. Exactly. I flew all my executives in. We watched the whole thing in 2 days together, and we deciphered, and we went through every single issue on every episode. We took breaks and talked about it for 2 straight days.
I did an ABC special on it. After it aired on ESPN had me go on ABC and do a Last Dance special, hosting the show because of it. That's how big it was.
It was sick.
So you heard what Stephen A. Smith had to say. Now what I'm going to do is I want to read some articles for you guys. I got 2 articles that basically talked about the success of the Last Dance docuseries. I'm going to be reading from 2 of them. I'm going to read from a CNN article. This one says, The Last Dance scores viewership record for ESPN. It then continues on to say, Michael Jordan hasn't played basketball in nearly 20 years, but he's still scoring big for the big ratings for ESPN. The premiere of The Last Dance, the network's highly anticipated docuseries about Jordan and the Chicago Bulls NBA dynasty, averaged 6.1 million viewers on Sunday night, the network said in a statement on Monday. That makes The Last Dance the most viewed ESPN documentary ever. The debut of the 10-part series was a hit, with the 18 to 49-year-olds grabbing 3.5 million in the advertising beloved demo. Unsurprisingly, the top market for viewership was Chicago, where Jordan spent the majority of his basketball career. ESPN announced last month that The Last Dance would be moved up to April from June in order to fill the void that was left by live sports. Since the coronavirus pandemic put the sports world on hold last month, the network has cobbled together a schedule of classic games, studio shows, and films. Now, I want to read from another article. This is from Variety. It says, The Last Dance, Michael Jordan series finishes as the most viewed ESPN documentary ever. Michael Jordan may be the greatest basketball player of all time, and the documentary about his historic career has proven to be the biggest in the history of ESPN. With the ratings for the final 2 episodes of the docuseries officially in, The Last Dance averaged 5.6 million viewers across its 10 episodes, beating all previous numbers put out by ESPN Docs. Episode 9 was watched around 5.9 million times, up 10% from the week before, and making it the 3rd most watched episode of the series, behind only the premiere with 6.3 million and episode 3 with 6.1. Oddly enough, the finale lost a little ground on the penultimate episode, drawing 5.4 million pair of eyeballs. And then the article goes on to say a few other things there. Now, the question I have for the audience is, how is this possible? How is this possible? How is this possible? I remember the 75th anniversary All-Star game when Jordan came out and he received a lot of applause. And I remember the following day on television where Nick Wright said that that would be the last moment that Michael Jordan would be relevant. Again, that was what Nick Wright said. But here's the question. When was the last time we saw Jordan make an appearance like that since he retired? Apart from maybe Kobe's, I think, memorial service or something like that. When was the last time you saw it? I can't remember a time. So for a guy that hadn't played basketball in 20 years and has these basically cronies on television arguing against him every single day, and the Nick Wrights and the Shannon Sharpes and these guys, how is it possible that he was able to garner that many eyeballs? How is that possible? I think the only answer to that is is because Jordan is clearly the greatest player and the best player to ever play basketball. And the numbers show it. They've always shown it. Even when he played basketball, more people watch basketball than they do today. Go look at the finals numbers. Go look at the ratings. To me, it's no big surprise because this is the Jordan effect. Look at his sneakers, how they sell. Even some of Jordan's biggest haters wear his shoes. It's to that point. It's to that point. So none of this really surprises me, to be honest with you. It's Jordan. It's the Jordan effect, and it's one of the reasons why in sports media, if you wanna have a conversation about basketball, you got to compare to whoever it is you're trying to compare. You got to compare them to Jordan because Jordan's the standard. If Jordan wasn't the standard, why don't they compare other players? Why don't they compare, for example, LeBron to some other player? Because they know Jordan, and they know if they compare him to Jordan, you're going to get the clicks and the eyeballs. Because no one moves the needle more than Jordan. As a matter of fact, we probably wouldn't even know who Nick Wright was had he not had his debut episode, I believe in 2016 on Undisputed, where he said that LeBron had passed Jordan. That's his most viewed video on the internet, folks. Has millions of views. He was talking about Jordan. Nick Wright has had 1 million LeBron videos. None of them have hit 1 million views. But the minute he came out there and said that, as it pertains to Jordan, that was his basically call to fame. Nick Wright owes Jordan a lot of checks. What do you think? And a quick aside, I'm going to add this in. If you listen to that interview with Patrick David, he spoke about the level of popularity that Jordan had. He said at the time when Jordan was playing, the two most popular people in the world were Michael Jordan and Michael Jackson. Stephen A. Smith said, you may think the LeBrons and all of these guys are famous. He's like, you haven't seen anything else. You don't know what Jordan is. And Patrick David said he was doing that without social media. Jordan is by far the most recognizable, one of the most recognizable, or arguably amongst the top 3 most recognizable athletes in the world. In the world. Every major athlete was influenced by Jordan. Name them. Ronaldo, Beckham, Messi, Kobe, LeBron, all of them. He's easily the most popular NBA player in the world. It's not even close. That's why his shoes do what they do. People say, oh, it's Nike marketing. So Nike don't market Kevin Durant and LeBron and all those other guys. They didn't market them. Because those guys weren't able to capture the imagination of fans and sports enthusiasts all over the world the way Jordan did. That's the fact of the matter. This ain't about your opinions. This ain't about what this person is saying, what that person is saying. Those are the facts. There's Jordan and then there's everybody else. And I personally think the second most popular athlete, NBA player to ever play in the NBA is actually, in my personal view, some people say it's Magic Johnson. I actually think it's Kobe. Kobe globally is huge. Europe, China, United States, it's massive. First of all, for those of you who may not be aware, the Lakers just won their 5th game in a row. The Lakers are pretty much red hot right now. As we look at the NBA standings currently, the Lakers are in the 9th seed. I'm not sure if they're going to catch the Kings. We'll have to see because the Kings are 2 games up on the loss column, and I think they're going to play them again. But the Kings have lost 1 game. The Rockets could also be in play. They've won 10 games in a row. I think they have the longest winning streak right now. So the Lakers right now, if things hold, they're 2 games. I think the Lakers are going to make it into the play-in because they're also 2 games up, excuse me, on the Golden State Warriors for that 10th spot. So we'll have to see how things are shaking out there. And they had another great victory yesterday, I believe, in Memphis against the Memphis Grizzlies, right? So the Lakers are coming. So what happened? This morning, I was actually doing some research here, and I came across a clip from Nick Wright, who was on the volume with Colin Cowherd, and of course, they were discussing various things. So during this sit down, they got to a part where they were discussing the Lakers and their chances and all of that. And then Nick Wright says something that I think is probably one of the most insane takes I've heard in 2024 as it pertains to sports. But essentially what Nick Wright said was, if he's the Lakers, he would want the Lakers to face the Denver Nuggets in round 1. What we want to do is now we want to play what Nick Wright said. It's only about a minute audio, so please bear with me. You guys have to listen to a minute of Nick Wright. Take a listen to what Nick Wright had to say here, and then we'll come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Can I throw a pretty ridiculous, but I believe it's correct NBA take at you?
Absolutely. I love these.
Even though they're the 9 seed, the Lakers appear to me to have the most upside Everyone's healthy, everything clicks, all of it. But they can't beat Denver. The Lakers should want Denver in round 1. If you have to beat them no matter what, you want them in round 2 when you just went 6 or 7 with Minnesota or OKC and they swept whoever they were playing. You want them in round 3 when the games are every other day, or you want them in round 1 when there's 2 or 3 days between games at times.
Yep.
LeBron and AD can both play 44 minutes. You are as fresh as you're going to be at any point and try to knock them off when they, you know what I mean, right before they have really hit their stride.
Where do we even begin? What do we do? Where do we start? Help me understand something here. Maybe I'm missing something. I thought the objective of a team that is in the playoffs, regardless of your seeding, you could be 1 or 8. I thought the objective was to make it to the NBA Finals. I thought that was the objective, because last time I checked, that's what it was. So, if your goal is to make it to the finals, what would make more sense to you? Going through the path of the least amount of resistance, or going through the path of the most resistance? Which one would make better sense to you? I think most of the people watching this show would say, hey, listen, I'd rather take the path of least resistance to make it to the finals. But Nick Wright wouldn't. Nick Wright instead is suggesting that the Lakers should take their chances against the Denver Nuggets, who all of us, including himself, have come to the conclusion is the best team in the Western Conference. But in Nick Wright's mind, he's saying, well, look at it. Yes, Denver is the best team. Yes, they are. So if I'm the Lakers, what I would do is I would try to beat the best team right now to get them out of the way. And then, because I'm fresh, no injuries, and then go out there and beat the other teams who are weaker. Let's look at it from a standpoint of probability. What team gives the Lakers the greatest chance of knocking the Lakers out of the playoffs? What team would that be? I'm going to raise my hand and say the Denver Nuggets. Who do you vote for? I think the majority of the people that voted would be the Nuggets. So in your mind, it makes the most sense to face the team with the greatest probability to knock you out immediately. So that means that what? You're basically gambling on being knocked out of the first round and your entire playoff series is over. Instead of having that Nuggets team go face another team that could potentially knock them out, so you don't have to face them at all. But in Nick's mind, he's like, yeah, I'd rather face them first. Who says this? Even under the post, let me just read some comments. One person said clickbait, but that's Nick's reason. But Nick's reasoning makes sense. If you have to beat the Nuggets anyway, may as well try it when you're the healthiest and most rested. Another person said, before watching, what the are you talking about? After watching, shaking his head. Let's go to some other comments. Lakers won't beat the Nuggets. LOL. Another person said, I felt this way. Another person said, I like this take. Another person said, have the Nuggets ever beat a healthy Lakers team? Another person said, total clickbait tweet, but you got me. Nick Wright is super logical here, though. Nobody beats the Nuggets in a 7-game series, so you might as well try it in round 1 when you're fresh. And another person said, that would be perfect for Dallas. And another person is laughing. Last year when the Lakers lost to the Nuggets, was it because of their health? Why are you talking about health? Was it because of their health? The Nuggets are clearly the best team in the Western Conference. I don't see the sense in wanting to face that team first. because that team gives you the greatest chance of being knocked out of the entire playoffs. Whereas if you face other teams, you can be in the playoffs longer and hope for attrition and all of those things to kick in on if the Nuggets playing other teams. And then when you get to them, hopefully they're a little bit worn out and then you face them. Now, some people say, well, you don't want to be worn out in the playoffs because by the time you face the Nuggets, you're going to be worn out. But you're going to be worn out anyway, even if you beat them. So what are you talking about? You're going to be worn out by the time you make it to the Western Conference Finals anyway. So being worn out is not a good enough argument. You're still going to deal with that. Every team is going to deal with it. Well, not every team. Teams that advance. But to say that you want to play the Denver Nuggets in round 1 and take your chances against beating them, good luck. Good luck. If you've seen something that makes you feel like you can beat the Nuggets, then go ahead, have at it. Good luck. Good luck. If the Lakers had to face the Nuggets right now, I think the Nuggets would beat the Lakers in 5 or 6 games. The Nuggets are the best team, and nobody wants to face the Nuggets. Nobody. This is the first person I've heard say the Lakers should go face the Nuggets in round 1. This is the first person I've ever heard say this. I'm going to state it from the onset. I'm not a fan of Draymond Green. Some people kind of tippy-toe around it. I am not a fan of Draymond Green whatsoever. I just think it's important that I say that from the onset. Draymond Green is one of the dirtiest players I've ever seen play basketball. It's not even close. He is one of the dirtiest players. He has some of the most suspect moves on players I've ever seen. You can just basically go on the internet and pull up basically a compilation video of Draymond Green and his dirty plays, kicking players in the balls multiple times. I don't know why you even do that. What's up with that, yo? Like, why are you kicking dudes in their balls for? Slapping people on the face, acting like you don't know what's happening, stomping on people's chests, throwing people in the chokeholds, backhanding people. Just the other night, I think he threw this Miami Heat player into a headlock. The league ain't do nothing. Nobody did nothing, right? Draymond Green, and he knows who to do it with. This is the part I get. He knows who he can play that game with. And he knows the people he won't play that game with. He tried to run Artest. Google Draymond Green and Ron Artest. That came to a screeching halt. Stop right there. Go look at Marcus Morris Sr., where Marcus Morris Sr. flung his ass to the ground. Nothing happened. Draymond Green stood up and started clapping. There was no retaliation. There was no Shoryuken like the way he did Jordan Poole. There was Nathan. None of that going on. Tristan Thompson, and it goes on and on and on and on and on and on. There are players he does it to because he knows they'll be intimidated or whatever, and then players that he doesn't. So what happened? Yesterday, the Golden State Warriors are in a hunt for the playoffs, and if I'm looking at the NBA standings right now to make the play-in, the Golden State Warriors are the number 10 seed, and they won 2 games in a row, but they're really fighting to make it into the play-in. So yesterday they're playing a game against the Orlando Magic, a game which they ultimately won, by the way, thanks to the heroics of Stephen Curry there. And then I see the notification on my phone that it was on Instagram that Draymond Green got ejected in 4 minutes left to go, 4 minutes in the first quarter. I was like, how is this possible? So I clicked to see the video, and Draymond Green is there arguing with the referee. I don't know why Draymond can not say something and then maybe say it again and stop. He cannot control himself, so he just goes off and keeps going and going and going and going and going, and then he gets tossed. And after he got tossed, you literally see Stephen Curry look like he was about to burst into tears. That's how emotionally distraught he was over that situation. So what happened this morning? I woke up and I saw that on Nightcap that they did a show reacting to the Draymond Green incident by getting thrown out of the game, and it was Shannon Sharpe and Gilbert Arenas talking about it. So what we want to do is we want to play what Shannon Sharpe had to say about that ejection, and then we're going to come back and react to what he had to say. Take a listen to what Shannon had to say here.
Let's take a listen to the Steph sound after the game.
What did you think of the Draymond ejection?
All I say is we need him. He knows that. We all know that. So whatever it takes to keep him on the floor, he'll be available. That's what's got to happen.
Why do we keep having this conversation? Draymond said back in 2016, He had learned his lesson because he cost his team an NBA championship.
Yes.
You're no longer going to have to worry about Draymond because I'm never going to, and he potentially cost himself a finals MVP.
Yeah, he didn't clothesline nobody this time. Last night or the other night, almost. This one, I don't put on him. I put it more on the ref. This one.
But here's the thing, though, Gil. Why would Draymond? He's their worst negotiator.
Facts.
Do you Gil? Do you realize if the officials, if any other player within the official space yelling like Draymond, they would get tossed on a nightly basis? He knows that he's going to get a little leeway because they're going to give that this just Draymond.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't get their fight. Now, maybe they don't want to go to the playoffs. I can see them losing a couple more games and Steve Kerr shutting Steph Curry down for the rest of the year. I can see it.
Yes.
I can totally see that happening. If the Rockets ever catch them, now I don't know when we came on, Williams hit a 3 to send the game into overtime. And last I saw, I thought the Rockets were up a couple of games, so they might be a half game back, or they might be a full game and a half back. But I don't know what the end of that game what it did. Did the Rockets hold on and win, or did
Rockets won?
Okay, so now the Rockets have won 10 straight in overtime, and they're only one game behind the Wizards for the 10th spot. One game behind the Warriors for the 10th spot. I can see a scenario that if the Rockets catch the Warriors for that 10th spot, they're not going to fight for it. They're like, okay, hey, Steph, you done.
So you heard what Shannon Sharpe had to say there. Gilbert Arenas was defending it. I'm not exactly sure why he was defending it. Gilbert Arenas tried to put it on the ref. They also tried to put it on Rudy Gobert. Don't touch me. Oh, when you're in an altercation, don't touch me. Touch the teammate. What? What? What are y'all talking about? People try to make a defense for Draymond, and they just say anything. When you're in a fight, in an altercation, the rule is you don't touch the person. That's bull. How do I know this? Go look at the fight between Rajon Rondo and Chris Paul. Who was the person standing right behind Chris Paul? Who was the person? Who was the person that grabbed Chris Paul when the first punch was thrown by Rajon Rondo? Who was that person? Go look at the video. Who was it? The person was actually LeBron James. LeBron James. So LeBron grabs Chris Paul, who's not his teammate but his friend, to try to break up the scuffle. Then what will happen? Then a Rocket player should run up and throw LeBron James in a chokehold. And you will be up here talking about, well, LeBron deserves to be thrown in a chokehold because he touched the wrong. Y'all would never say that. But they don't like Rudy Gobert because he's a foreigner. They're like, let's just call it is what it is. Like, y'all don't like him, some of y'all, because he's a foreigner. So he's a green light. He food. So Draymond throws somebody into a chokehold, a move that if you did that on the street, you would be arrested. And if a police did that to you, I don't even think police are allowed to throw people into chokeholds like that. But y'all let Draymond Green walk it off like that. Y'all let him walk it out because y'all like Draymond Green, some of y'all. And then yesterday you're going to talk about it's the ref? Do you know even Steve Kerr said Draymond Green deserved to get thrown out? The coach is usually the first person that defends the player, even the coach. Even Stephen Curry, you heard him. Stephen Curry was beside himself. Like, what? Draymond don't care. He doesn't care. And I think Draymond doesn't have any self-control. I think Draymond Green doesn't have any self-control. Draymond Green does that because he knows that he's in an NBA setting and nothing is really going to happen. Draymond Green would not do that on the street to just some person walking out because you don't know what that person is capable of. He knows that. Anybody that behaves like a Draymond Green in real life is up out of here. They're not even here no more. Because You do that in reality with the wrong person, you up out of here. Some people are not going for that. Some people are not even going for all of that talking. You heard the Biggie song? Talk slick. You get your, you know what, quick, because real street ain't having that. These people ain't going to be playing with Draymond Green. They're not playing with him. So I don't like Draymond Green. I don't like what he does. I don't like his antics. Draymond Green acts like as if he's like one of the best players to ever play this sport. He talks more trash than LeBron James. So I don't like Draymond Green. I don't like what he does. I don't like a lot of his sucker moves. And Kenyon Martin brought it up on the Gills Arena. He's like, yo, is anybody going to stand up to this dude? Is anybody going to sock him in the mouth? Or y'all just all going to let this dude run up on you and put his goon down on all of you and nobody does nothing, waiting for the ref to jump in? Nobody feels a type of way? Nobody in the NBA going to chin check. Nobody out of the 450 players, they all going for it? Y'all all going to let this dude keep continuously punking you guys on TV every single year? Nobody? That's why they call it the cupcake era. Imagine if Draymond existed in the 90s and he was pulling this off. Just imagine if the Charles Oakleys, the Rick Mahorns, and all of these guys was playing, and then Draymond Green. Just imagine what that would look like. What do you think would happen?